welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. My name is Franco Rotoli. I'm a Senior Applications Engineer here at CAD Dimensions. Today we're going to be learning about library features. I titled the Lunch and Learn Fun with Library Features because when I show this functionality to current customers or prospects, I can see their imaginations running wild with the possibilities. So I say, let's have some fun with these and see if we can spark some of your imaginations. First off, what is a library feature? Well, SOLIDWORKS library features are bits of information that SOLIDWORKS stores on your hard drive or server that are intended for reuse. Like you can see here, they can include things like annotations, features, sheet metal forming tools, or even assemblies. They sit in the design library on your task pane and are just a drag and drop away. We'll come back to this screen here in a second. So why would you use library features? Well, if you ever make a feature or set of features more than once, or if you want more than one person to be able to look at those features and use them in their own models, library features are going to save you both time, money, and increase everyone's productivity. Or if someone is watching you model in SOLIDWORKS and you just want to play and look like a rock star. Let's be honest, the minute any one of us learns a new trick in SOLIDWORKS, what do? We want to show off. So hopefully by the end of this Lunch and Learn, you'll be able to take this back to some of your coworkers and show off and look like a SOLIDWORKS rock star to them. So for today's Lunch and Learn, we're going to focus on library features. Remember, the design library can hold much more, but we're just going to be focusing on features. We'll start with here, and then possibly in a later blog post or a later Lunch and Learn, we can focus on some of the other ones. But let's ask some questions. How do you utilize this powerful aspect of SOLIDWORKS? Well, enough with this boring PowerPoint. Let's get into SOLIDWORKS and see this on a real-life example. Let's start off with this highly complex human accessory storage device. All right, it's a jewelry box, and a simplified one. But we need to create the cuts that hold a locking mechanism in the front. My company may only source a few size locking kits, so I'm really limited in the geometry that I can use for this. But depending on the size and shape, I might want some options. Since we've been doing this a while, one of my coworkers has already created a library feature for these cuts. So adding them to subsequent models is a snap. So let's take a look. In my design library, under my features folder, and you can see here where it's stored on my hard drive. In the real world, this will be stored in a network location so everyone can access it. But I have these lock cuts features. And basically all you do is once you have the library feature created is drag and drop onto your model. So I'm going to drag and drop this onto my front face. You can see a nice preview. When I drop it down, I get asked by SOLIDWORKS what configuration I want to use. This library feature has a bunch of different configurations based on the sizes that we can order from the manufacturer. Just pick this top one, 2 by 0.75. These are the configuration names. So if you name your configurations more appropriately, like part numbers or order numbers or something like that, then obviously it's going to populate these. The next thing that happens is it comes up with a pop-up window that I can zoom, pan, and rotate, and it's asking me for references. In this case, I have an edge referenced here. It's going to center it on this edge, and that's based on how the geometry was created in this library feature part. In the second half of this Lunch and Learn, I'm going to show you how to create these and how to manage these references. So I'm going to pick the appropriate edge on my model that's highlighted over here. So we'll click this front edge, and you can see that now it's asking me for edge number 2, which is this back edge. So we click this one, and just so you know, it's to center this rectangular cut. So we'll rotate this around, we can zoom in, we have all this functionality. We'll center it there, and you can see very quickly, instantly, we have some features that have been created in my model. Now here we also have some locating dimensions. I can change these right from this interface. So this top offset is the offset between the top of my jewelry box and this ellipse. I can change this right here. If I want to change it to 1 inch, I can very easily do that. I can also change the faceplate depth and the faceplate offset. We're not going to do that because, again, we only have certain options that we can do based on the lock manufacturers. If I wanted to, I could also override the dimension values, the internal dimension values of these features, like the opening width, the opening height, the rectangular height and rectangular width for these two. So if I was not constrained by a manufactured item, I could very easily override these. We click the green check mark and boom, our features have been added to my working part. I can go on with my design. Very easily drag and drop, select a couple references, select a couple dimensions, and now my model is ready to move on. If I look at my feature design tree, we can see that the lock cuts was put in here with a configuration name. If I expand this out, you can see how many features I actually dragged and dropped. There were 4 features: cut 1, plane 1, cut extrude, cut 3, and cut 2 here. So with one simple drag and drop, I was able to grab actually 4 features. If I do need to change these, I can very easily right click, edit the feature, and I can change configurations. You can see here my different configurations look something like that. So if I made a mistake, I can very easily change them there. Let's take a look at how do we create our own library features. Now this is going to take a little bit more time, and this is going to be the bulk of our Lunch and Learn today, because you need to be very careful as to how you create these and not create too many references outside of your model. Because as you can see, when I created this, I only had to grab 2 edges, and that was to center it left and right. If you make too many external references, then that list is going to be significantly longer, and it's going to really, and it's not going to be as efficient down the road. So I have another model here that this is going to be for a diamond design, a diamond cutout that I'm going to put on the side of my jewelry box. All it is a standard dummy block, if you will. It's a block that's 5 inches by 5 inches. Doesn't matter how big you make it as long as it can hold your cut. And I have a sketch on the front face that's currently underdefined, and it's just of a diamond that I created, very easy, with some dimensions. We're going to modify these later on. The first thing I want to do is, once we have this, I want to place them on this cube, or on this dummy block. And how I'm going to do that, I'm going to grab a sketch point, and I'm going to put a sketch point somewhere over here. Notice I'm not relating it to my origin. Right? I don't want to have to pick my origin or have to relate it to my origin in subsequent parts. So I'm not going to go anywhere near my origin. I just want to make sure if I control select the center line and this point that they are in fact coincident. And I'm going to drop a dimension from the bottom here to there. We'll make that about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so now if I move this point, it moves my diamond. Now this point, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a circular pattern of this diamond, either 4, 5, 6 times, however many I end up wanting. And I'll make some different configurations with some different sizes. So the reason I added this point is because this is going to be my axis of rotation. It's also going to be the point to which I dimension from 2 edges. So let's do that right now. Grab my Smart Dimension tool again, and I'll grab this edge and my point. Right now the spacing doesn't matter. We'll just make this 2.5 inches. And from this edge to this point as well, same idea, 2.5 inches. Now we'll create a cut. The depth in this case may or may not matter. We're just going to leave this at 0.1 at a blind extrusion. I could certainly put through all or up to next, depending on what I want my end condition to be in subsequent parts. But right now we'll just leave it at the default 0.1 inches. Okay, simple cut. I'll hide the sketch. We can see that there. Actually, I'm going to show that sketch again because I'm going to use this sketch point because I need to make a circular pattern of this using my circular pattern feature. But for a circular pattern, I need a cylindrical edge or a cylindrical face or a circular edge or an axis of rotation. I don't have that right now, so we need to create it. I was very careful to create this point not related to anything other than these two edges, remind you. So now what I can do is on my reference geometry toolbar, I can click axis, and I can pick on this point and this face. And what that's going to do, that's just standard SOLIDWORKS functionality. It's going to put an axis coming normal to this face at this point. Again, not referencing any planes, not referencing any origins or anything like that. This plane is already being, or excuse me, this face is already being accessed by the sketch, right? That's going to be my drag and drop face. So the only other thing that I'm accessing is this point, which is already part of the sketch. You'll see why that comes in handy later on. Click OK, so now I have my axis. Now I can easily do my circular pattern, selecting this axis, and my features to pattern is this cut extrude. All right, we'll just choose equal spacing and 6 instances in this case. Simple as that. Now, if I wanted to make different configurations or different sizes, I would do that. I could do that at this point, or what's preferable is I do it after the next step. The next step is to create the actual library feature. There are a few different ways to do it. I can select the features from my tree, right? Control select these 3 features and do a file, save as, and save as library feature part. You may have seen this already. And what this will do, it'll automatically jump you to where on your hard drive the design library is, and you put it into features, lunch and learn. I could put it there. But honestly, I find the drag and drop method significantly faster. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand out our design library into the folder where I want it to go. Control select, I'll hit my thumbtack here so it stays up. Control select these 3 features and just drag them and drop them into my lunch and learn folder. As soon as you do that, you get a dialog box that says add to library. You can name it whatever you want. I already have a completed one, so we'll just leave this one as Start Diamond Design or Diamond Design 2, whatever you want. You can add a description as well. When you click the green check mark, you can see that it goes into your library feature. Now we can close this. I'm not going to save it. And I can right-click in my design library and open it up. You can see that it actually took all the features that it needed, the dummy block, the sketch, and everything, and put them into the design library. Remember, now I'm working on this part. That part that I had open is no longer needed at this point. We also notice in our feature tree, at the very top, we have other folders that we don't typically see in a SOLIDWORKS file. We have references as well as dimensions. If I click on references, you can see there's 3 references that this library feature needs. Placement plane, edge 1, and edge 2. Do those look familiar? The placement plane is the sketch plane. Edge 1 is where I added that first dimension, and edge 2 is where I added that second dimension. You cannot change these once they get created. So that's why you have to be very careful when you're dragging and dropping, when you're creating features, not to create too many external references. Under the dimensions folder, we have all the dimensions that are in these features. We have the depth, diamond width, diamond height. Now these dimensions have been renamed. I renamed them before I started the webinar. But if you don't know how to do that, give us a call and we'll be happy to walk you through how to doing that. Renaming dimensions is a good idea no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, because when you come back and modify dimensions, you want to know what they're doing. D1 is that dimension that I added here, the spacing between the bottom of the diamond and my axis of rotation. And to rename that, remember, we can just slowly double click on it here, and we will call this Center offset, again, you can rename it to whatever you want. This is the dimension from the left, dimension from the top. Maybe we can call those that. Left spacing and top spacing. And here we have the angle, which we're not going to touch because we typically aren't going to change that. The angle of which my circular pattern goes around 360 degrees. And then this one is the number of instances. This one I am going to rename. And you can actually rename it right from the modify dialog or from here. We'll call this number of diamonds. We also have two more folders, locating dimensions and internal dimensions. And this is where in the user interface where we saw the two different windows, locating dimensions and the internal dimensions. And you can just drag and drop right from this dimensions folder into either one of these. So my locating dimensions are this top spacing, so I'm just dragging into the locating dimensions folder, and this left spacing. You can even drag in the center offset. And internal dimensions are dimensions that are basically locked, which we will put in the diamond width and diamond height. I don't really want people to mess with those. Okay, maybe under locating dimensions we can add number of diamonds as well. All right, and we'll add the depth as well. Let's rename this to cut depth and bring that in. Okay, we'll leave this one. This is the 360 degrees. We'll leave that one there. Just I want to show you that it actually doesn't come through when you drag and drop the feature. All right, so we'll save this. And now it's in here. I'm going to open the one that I've already have created because I already have configurations made. So let's open that one and take a look at what I did. Basically, I created the same exact thing, except I added a sketch. And the sketch is just to grab a reference dimension about what the rough size of this diamond shape is. I also created some configurations. So I have a 3" by 5 instance, 3" by 6 instance, 4" by 5, and 4" by 6. All right, just changing different dimensions. It's a lot easier to do it here because you're in a familiar modeling environment than it is to do in the library featured dialog box. And this way you can test out all your different configurations before you put them into production so that you know that all your configurations are going to work. Once I'm happy with that, I can close that out and come back to my jewelry box. Now I can just drag and drop from my diamond design onto this face, for example. All right, I drag and drop onto this face. We see the configuration list, and we will do a 4" by 6 instance. That looks a little bit too big. We don't want that one, so let's do 3" by 6 instance. That looks good. It's asking me for 2 edges. Remember the 2 edges that I added, so this side and the top. And if I want to, I can certainly change that. So if I do this 2.5 inches from the left, and actually that's not right. Let's go 3 inches looks better. My internal dimensions are right here, the cut depth. You can see that I actually added that to the internal dimensions on my on the one that I already had created. So it's a little bit more difficult to change that. And by a little bit more difficult, I mean I have to check this box and then just type in here if I wanted to make this 0.05. I can do that as well. And you can see that it rebuilds instantly. If I want to make that 0.025, I just come in here, type in 0.025, hit enter, and it rebuilds instantly. Click the green check mark, and we're good to go. One more thing that I did not show you, let's put another one of these decorations on the left side of my box. We'll pick the same size, 3 by 6. There's a checkbox here for link to library part. And that comes in handy if you think this logo or any of these features are ever going to change, and you want to change them in all the parts that you use them. You check this box, and then what happens is the file that's stored, in this case on my hard drive, but if it's stored on your network, if that ever changes, the next time you open up this jewelry box, that library feature is going to rebuild, and it's going to update your box. So if you do things like your company logo, if you emboss your company logo on your part, then, or on all your parts or assemblies or whatever, then if your company logo ever changes, or if a purchased component ever changes, and you need to change any sort of features that are associated with that component, you have to change it in one place up on the network, and then it changes in all your models. Now, obviously, you have to be careful there. Obviously, you want to make that read-only, and only a couple people have access to that, because you don't want somebody going in there and messing with it. So that's what I wanted to show you, is the link to library part here. We'll add these two edges back in and bring that one in. If I wanted to change the dimension values, I could change them right there. Click the green check mark. You can see we have three library features in this model. This one has an external reference, right? The external reference is because I checked the box link to library feature. So it's looking for that library feature every time we open this up. If you want to be really slick and not let people know that you use library features, you can always right-click on any one of them, say dissolve library feature, and when you do that, it basically brings all the parts, or excuse me, all the features into your model as if you designed them in the context of this model. Okay, so you do always have that option. Be careful though, once you select that option, you can't go back. You can't undissolve library features. So some of you might be asking, well, why would I use this instead of just copying and pasting features from one part to another? Well, this is a lot easier because I was able to grab 3 features all at once. I didn't have to copy and paste this internal cutout, this offset, as well as this rectangular cutout. And I didn't have to worry about dangling relations or anything like that. The interface for library features automatically reconnects your dangling relations or dangling dimensions. That's the beauty of it. And the user interface is very slick, and it's up on the network, or it's somewhere that multiple people can share, and they can use the same things, the same features over and over and over again.
Since we have a few more minutes, let's take a look at what else is in our design library. If we take a look up here in the upper right hand corner, we see that in our design library we have annotations. So if I'm in a drawing, in fact, you know what, let's create a quick drawing from this. And we'll just put in an isometric view. From my design library, I can drag and drop annotations. So if I use a surface finish symbol over and over again, I can just drag and drop the surface finish symbol right onto my model. If I use things like elevation markers, I can certainly do that as well. Right, and that's essentially a block. If we zoom in, we can see that. So that's just a block that was created and saved in here. Under assemblies, and these come default with SOLIDWORKS. So under assemblies, there's mold bases. So in case I had if I'm a mold maker, I can use these sample mold bases to bring components into my mold base. Under features, these we use these in the Essentials class. If you've ever taken an Essentials class with us here at CAD Dimensions, we use the O-ring grooves and the keyways, and we just drag and drop these onto our models. That's in the Essentials book. There's forming tools, so if you create sheet metal, there's embosses, louvers, lances, ribs, things like that that you can drag and drop onto your sheet metal components. There's also motion. There's some motors in here, so if you use SOLIDWORKS Motion, you can drag and drop motors onto your faces. parts, routing, if you use routing, there's that. There's also, you can add a simulation folder. So if you use the same forces in your simulation, or if you use the same constraints over and over again on your simulations, you can actually just drag and drop those, which make setting up your simulations a whole lot easier. So there's a lot of really cool tools here in the design library that we can use to make our day-to-day lives in SOLIDWORKS a lot easier and a lot faster.
So in summary, what is a library feature? It's a feature or set of features or annotations or parts or assemblies or whatever that are in your design library that are made for reuse by multiple people or just one person if you just want to use the same features over and over again, if you want to create the same features over and over again. Why would you use it? To save time, save money, be more productive, and look like a rock star. And how do you create library features? I just showed you how to do that. If you guys have any further questions on creating library features, the help file is great. That if you just search library features in the help file, it does discuss external references and what all those folders are that we talked about and I showed you. But of course, we're always here for you. Give us a call. At any one of our locations, we'll be happy to walk you through creating a library feature. So again, it's your library. Let's use it. I'm going to stay on the line here for a few more minutes to answer any one of your questions. If you want to just use the chat functionality in the GoTo meeting, in the GoTo webinar, I will try to answer any one of your questions. But again, my name is Franco Rotoli. And if you have any further questions other than what you want to type in the Lunch and Learn, please give us a call and we will be happy to help you out. Thanks.
Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and our blog for more great content by clicking on the links in the description below.